And for more on this, I do want to bring in Sam Bassett, who is a criminal defense attorney and a partner with a Texas-based law firm. And Sam, we appreciate you taking the time to join us here on Live Now from Fox.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to ask you this because we have seen the previous LA district attorney stating that he would support resentencing. Now the current LA district attorney coming out saying he will not support resentencing until the Menendez brothers, he says, come clean with all of the lies that they've been telling for decades. When it comes to the hearing later on this month, the court hearing, what is the likelihood that the court could side with the Menendez brothers? Can you explain this from the legal standpoint?
Well, you have two tracks, the court track and the governor track. As far as the judge and the court is concerned, what's happened is the DA, because of the switch in district attorney, the DA's position has flipped to being in favor of resentencing to being against it. So at this point in time, it's clear that the district attorney is locked into the position, the new district attorney is locked into the position that they're going to oppose a resentencing. He has a contingency, he stated, that he will consider if they come clean with all of their, quote, lies, in his words, he may reconsider. So the judge could still grant the resentencing over the opposition of the district attorney, but obviously it's a much higher hill to climb for the Menendez brothers if the prosecutor is against them being resentenced.
This is a case that really has gripped the nation for decades now, coming back into the spotlight in just the past recent months or so. When it comes to the family of the Menendez brothers, initially they had been very optimistic and positive, at least from the previous district attorney. Now, not so much. But what could the likelihood be that they will be resentenced?
I think really it falls on the judge, whether or not the judge feels that the circumstances warrant a resentencing because of their age and because of the circumstances. I understand the district attorney's argument to a certain extent that their conduct doesn't squarely fall within the self-defense realm, depending on the facts you believe. I can understand that argument. But the circumstances under which they were living certainly pulls us in the other direction when you understand the abuse that they were undergoing, even though it doesn't fall under self-defense. In Texas and in other jurisdictions, we might call that mitigating evidence. That yes, they did something really terrible, but they were in a terrible environment themselves. So all of that should be taken into consideration in this resentencing decision. That would be my argument for them, even if you don't buy the self-defense argument.
So we know that hearing is coming up later on this month. What's the likelihood that it actually happens and that a decision will be made, or could it just be delayed?
I think, and I understand from some of the information I've seen, it may be delayed into April. So you also have on the periphery, you have Governor Newsom considering a clemency action, and he's doing certain types of background studies and psychological evaluations to determine what his position on clemency might be. So I would suspect if I'm the Menendez lawyer, I might not be in a huge hurry to rush into court on the resentencing decision, because perhaps there could be a coalescing of opinions that would let my clients get out. I mean, obviously that's the number one priority if you're their lawyer. I don't care how they get out, resentencing, clemency, the right hand, the left hand, it doesn't matter. So it's going to be an interesting next month or so to see how it comes together and whether or not there's some sort of an agreement ultimately.
So you were mentioning Governor Newsom and the potential for clemency. How immediate? Now, let's say Governor Newsom decides to grant clemency. Would they immediately be released? What is the legal timeline for that?
That's my understanding. I think the first thing that has to happen is the parole board has to make a recommendation to Newsom, and then he has to make the decision. I think that the process of the parole board could take another couple months. So there may be a little bit of a wait and see on the resentencing hearing too. I don't know this judge, so I don't know what everybody is reading the tea leaves as far as whether or not he'd be inclined to grant the resentencing over the DA's opposition or not. But I think if you have Newsom's office saying, look, we're probably going to grant clemency, then it may be wise to back off the confrontational resentencing hearing and wait for Newsom to do his thing.
We've seen a lot of back and forth. We've seen, different players come into this ongoing process. From that legal standpoint, though, from that criminal defense standpoint, would you be hopeful? Let's say you represent the Menendez brothers. Given everything that has unfolded, would you be hopeful that they would be released at some point?
Yes, I would be optimistic at this point. I don't know if I'd be optimistic about next month or next year, but it seems like the momentum has built aside from the DA's position for their release. So the question strategically for their lawyers, I think at this point, is do they bite at the DA's invitation to admit lies that they told, assuming they were lies? Do they bite? And if they did, will that pay dividends in terms of the DA softening his position on the resentencing? That's a really tough question.
It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. And the next step, of course, you said it's two-pronged. One, the parole board, and then two, the resentencing hearing that is tentatively scheduled for the end of this month, but could likely be delayed until the following month. We'll continue to have to wait and see, but we appreciate you breaking it down from that legal perspective. Again, a lot of national attention on this case, and we'll follow it every step of the way. We appreciate you taking the time, Sam.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.